The clock won't wait for you, and while you hesitate, life quietly moves on. Every tick is a reminder that opportunity favors action, not excuses. What you delay today becomes the regret you carry tomorrow, and that weight is heavy. Use this moment right now because time only rewards those who respect it. Start where you stand, move with purpose, and let the clock work for you, not against you. Time moves forward whether you act or not. Delay turns opportunity into regret. Purposeful action is the only way to master time. Time moves forward whether you act or not. And that simple truth, once fully understood, can shake a person awake like nothing else, because while you're thinking, doubting, waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect plan, or the perfect moment, the clock keeps marching on without the slightest concern for your comfort, your fears, or your excuses. And that's not cruel, it's just honest. Life doesn't pause while you gather courage, it doesn't slow down while you search for confidence, and it certainly doesn't stop because you're unsure of yourself. Every sunrise brings with it a fresh supply of minutes, yet every sunset quietly takes them away, never to be returned, and most people live as if tomorrow is guaranteed, as if time were a loyal friend who'll wait patiently until they finally decide to take themselves seriously. But here's the hard lesson. Time is neutral. It doesn't reward good intentions or punish bad ones. It simply responds to action, and if you fail to act, it moves on and leaves you exactly where you are. Think about it. The years you call lost weren't stolen from you. They passed while you were standing still, hoping circumstances would change on their own, and hope without action is nothing more than a polite form of delay. While one person hesitates, another with half the talent, but twice the courage steps forward, and time sides with the doer every single time. You don't have to be brilliant to move ahead, but you must be willing, because willingness creates momentum. And momentum, once started, pulls opportunity into your path like a magnet. Meanwhile, waiting creates rust, and rust eats away at dreams faster than failure ever could. Failure, at least, teaches, sharpens, and redirects, but waiting teaches nothing except regret. You see, time doesn't measure your potential. It measures your progress, and progress only comes from motion, even imperfect motion. The tragedy isn't that people fail, it's that they never begin. Telling themselves stories about someday, when things settle down, when they feel ready, when fear finally disappears, not realizing fear fades only when you walk straight through it. The clock doesn't care about your background, your age, or your past mistakes. It ticks the same for everyone, rich or poor, confident or confused, and that should be encouraging, because it means the only thing standing between you and change is decision followed by action. Every minute you spend wondering if you can do it is a minute you could have spent becoming the kind of person who does it. Time won't announce when opportunity expires. It simply slips away quietly, leaving behind a faint echo that sounds a lot like you could have, and that echo grows louder with each passing year. People often say they're afraid of failing, but what they're really afraid of is looking foolish while trying, and so they choose the safer pain of inaction, not realizing it compounds daily. The clock keeps score even when you're not watching, and one day you look back and wonder how weeks turned into years without much to show for them. Yet here's the hopeful part. The same force that exposes delay also rewards decision, because the moment you decide to move, time becomes your ally. Small steps taken consistently outrun grand plans trapped in the mind. You don't need more time, you need more movement, because action stretches time in ways waiting never can. A single hour used with purpose can outweigh days lost to distraction. The present moment is the only place where power exists, and it's always available, yet most people abandon it for memories of the past or fantasies of the future, both of which are powerless. When you act now, even clumsily, you claim ownership of time instead of renting it out to fear. Time moving forward without you isn't a punis, meant it's a reminder. A nudge saying life is ready when you are, but it won't beg you to participate. The clock won't slow its pace to match your comfort zone, but it will reward your courage the instant you step beyond it. So understand this deeply. Every tick is an invitation, not a threat, and whether you accept it or ignore it is entirely up to you, but the invitation won't stay open forever. Act while the door is still unlocked. Move while your legs are still strong. Decide while your mind still burns with questions, because clarity comes after action, not before. Time is moving right now as you read these words, and when you finish, It'll keep moving, with or without your permission, so the wisest choice you'll ever make is to move with it, starting now, imperfectly, bravely, and without waiting for a sign that may never come. Delay turns opportunity into regret, and that truth stings because it exposes how quietly dreams slip away while a person keeps telling himself he'll start tomorrow, not realizing tomorrow is a moving target that never arrives. Opportunity is rarely loud or dramatic. It doesn't shout or knock twice. It usually whispers once and waits briefly. And when you hesitate, it moves on to someone else who's willing to listen and act. Most people don't lose because they chose wrong. They lose because they chose later, and later has a habit of turning into never. Every delay feels harmless in the moment, like a small pause to gather strength, but pauses pie. Lee up. And before you know it, years have passed and the same idea is still sitting untouched in the mind, growing heavier with guilt and self-blame. Regret doesn't arrive suddenly. It creeps in slowly, disguised as comfort, routine, and excuses that sound reasonable until time exposes them as costly lies. When you delay action, you don't freeze life, you only freeze your progress while life continues to move forward, carrying chances, connections, and possibilities right past you. Opportunity has a season, and seasons don't wait for permission to change. They shift naturally, and once they're gone, wishing won't bring them back. Think of how many moments felt ordinary at the time but later revealed themselves as turning points you never took, a conversation you didn't start, a skill you didn't learn, a risk you didn't take, all because waiting felt safer than trying. Delay feeds fear, and fear grows stronger the longer it's left unchallenged, convincing you that action is dangerous when in truth, inaction is far more destructive. Regret is heavy because it carries the weight of unrealized potential, the haunting question of what might have been if courage had shown up sooner. The saddest part is that regret often comes wrapped in wisdom gained too late, lessons learned after the window has closed. Opportunity doesn't respond to intention alone. It responds to movement, and no amount of planning can replace the simple act of starting. People often say they're preparing, but preparation without execution is just procrastination wearing a respectable mask. Each delay quietly rewires the mind to accept less, to settle, to believe that dreams are optional rather than urgent. Over time, the fire that once burned bright dims, not because the dream was impossible, but because it was postponed too many times. Regret doesn't shout, it whispers late at night, reminding you of the version of yourself you abandoned through delay. You begin to measure life not by what you achieved, but by what you avoided, and that's a painful calculation. Opportunity thrives on decisiveness, even imperfect decisiveness, because momentum matters more than precision in the beginning. When you delay, you send a signal to yourself that your goals aren't worth immediate effort, and the mind believes what you repeatedly show it. Small delays train you for bigger delays until taking action feels unnatural and waiting feels normal. Regret then becomes familiar company, sitting quietly beside you as years pass. You might tell yourself you'll act when conditions improve, but conditions rarely improve without action forcing them to change. Opportunity favors those who act before they feel ready, because readiness is built in motion, not in stillness. Delay steals confidence, because confidence grows from doing, not from thinking. The more you wait, the more distant success feels and the closer regret moves. People admire bold outcomes, but those outcomes are born from early, often me, SSI action that most people were too hesitant to take. Regret is the interest you pay on borrowed time, and the longer you borrow without repayment, the more it costs. You can recover from mistakes, but recovering from regret is harder because there's nothing to fix, only memories to replay. Delay turns opportunity into regret because it trades living experience for imagined safety, and safety never fulfills the soul. The world rewards speed of decision more than perfection of choice because action creates feedback, and feedback creates growth. When you delay, you miss not only the result, but the growth that comes with the attempt. Regret then becomes a quiet reminder that you chose comfort over courage. The opportunity you're postponing today is shaping the regret you'll feel tomorrow, even if you don't sense it yet. Time keeps a faithful record, and it doesn't forget delays. Every moment you wait adds another page to a story you didn't write. Yet the truth remains hopeful, because the cycle can break the instant you decide to act. The same force that turns delay into regret can turn decision into destiny. Opportunity responds immediately to movement, no matter how small, and regret loses its grip when action begins. But that choice must be made now, not later, because later is the favorite hiding place of regret. Understand this clearly. Delay is not neutral. It has a direction, and that direction leads straight to regret, unless interrupted by action taken today. People underestimate how fast opportunity ages, how quickly enthusiasm cools, markets shift, people move on, and doors quietly close without ceremony. What feels available today can feel impossible tomorrow, not because the world changed, but because the moment passed. Delay convinces you that opportunity is permanent, when in reality it's temporary by nature. Regret forms when you finally see clearly, but too late to act, when experience hands you understanding after the test is over. Many carry regret not for what they did wrong, but for what they never did at all, and that kind of regret lingers longer because it has no clear ending. You can apologize for mistakes, correct errors, rebuild after failure, but you can't revisit moments that required timely action. Delay steals urgency, and without urgency, ambition weakens. You start lowering standards, shrinking goals, and convincing yourself that wanting less is maturity, when it's often just delayed disappointment speaking. Opportunity requires faith, not blind faith, but faith expressed through action, and delay erodes that faith one excuse at a time. Regret then becomes a mirror you avoid, because it reflects not lack of ability, but lack of decision. Each postponed action becomes a silent vote against the life you claim to want. Over time, those votes add up, and the result is a life that feels smaller than it should. Delay also multiplies doubt, because the longer you wait, the more imagined obstacles appear, each one feeling more real than the last. Regret feeds on those doubts, replaying them as proof that you missed your chance. Yet opportunity is often reborn in different forms, but only visible to those already in motion. Those stuck in delay rarely see it, because regret narrows vision. The habit of acting keeps opportunity flowing, while the habit of waiting dries it up. When you act, even imperfectly, you stay in conversation with life. When you delay, life stops asking. Regret is life's silence in response to prolonged hesitation. The cure is simple but not easy. Act when the idea is fresh, when the fear is loud, when the outcome is unclear. That's where opportunity lives. Delay will always offer comfort now in exchange for pain later, while action demands discomfort now and rewards later. Choose wisely, because time will enforce the consequences either way. Regret fades only when replaced by movement, by decisions that honor the present instead of fearing the future. Opportunity doesn't ask for perfection, only participation, and it responds instantly when you step forward. Delay is a quiet thief, but action is a powerful defender. Choose action now, because the cost of waiting is always higher than the cost of trying, and time never negotiates its price. Decide today, move today, and let regret find no place to settle again. Action is the only way to master time, because time itself cannot be controlled, slowed, or persuaded. It can only be directed through what you choose to. Do with the moments you're given, and that realization separates those who feel rushed and overwhelmed from those who seem calm, focused, and ahead of their lives. Many people complain that time slips through their fingers, yet rarely stop to ask how intentionally they're using it, because time doesn't disappear, it gets spent, either on purpose or by default. When action lacks purpose, time feels chaotic, scattered, and cruel. But when action is guided by clear intention, time becomes organized, cooperative, even generous. Purposeful action doesn't mean constant busyness. It means meaningful movement, choosing tasks that align with your long-term vision instead of reacting to distractions that shout the loudest. The world is full of noise, endless demands, notifications, obligations, and opinions, all competing for your attention. And if you don't decide in advance what deserves your time, everything will take it. That's why people who drift feel exhausted yet unfulfilled, while those who act with purpose often achieve more with less stress. Purpose gives direction, and direction gives time structure. Without purpose, Hours blur together, days feel wasted, and years pass without noticeable progress, but with purpose, even small actions compound into something powerful. Purposeful action turns time into an asset instead of a burden. You stop asking where the time went and start deciding where it will go. Mastery of time isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most. See, consistently, even when motivation fades. Purpose acts like a compass, guiding your actions when emotions fluctuate, when distractions tempt, and when progress feels slow. The mistake most people make is waiting for inspiration to strike before acting, but inspiration is unreliable, while purpose is steady. When your actions are tied to a clear purpose, you act whether you feel ready or not, because you understand that progress is built on discipline, not mood. Time responds to discipline. When you show up daily, even imperfectly, time rewards you with momentum, clarity, and confidence. Purposeful action also sharpens focus, because when you know why you're acting, it becomes easier to say no to what doesn't serve that purpose. Saying no is one of the most powerful ways to master time, yet many struggle with it because they lack clarity about their priorities. Purpose simplifies decisions. It turns a crowded schedule into a meaningful plan. Instead of reacting all day, you begin leading your day. Purposeful action also creates rhythm, and rhythm reduces friction. You fall into routines that support your goals, making progress feel natural rather than forced. Over time, these routines compound, and what once felt difficult becomes automatic. That's how time gets mastered, not through control, but through alignment. When your actions align with your values and goals, time works with you instead of against you. People often believe they need more time, but what they really need is more intention. Two people can have the same 24 hours, yet one feels behind while the other feels fulfilled. And the difference lies in purposeful action. One drifts from task to task, the other commits to meaningful steps. Purposeful action also builds self-trust, because every time you act in alignment with your goals, you prove to yourself that you're reliable, and self-trust reduces hesitation. Less hesitation means faster decisions, and faster decisions save time. Doubt wastes time. Overthinking wastes time. Indecision drains energy. Purpose cuts through all of it. It gives you permission to act before everything is perfect, knowing that adjustment is part of progress. Time favors those who adjust while moving, not those who wait for certainty. Purposeful action turns mistakes into feedback instead of failure, which speeds up growth. When you're purposeful, setbacks don't feel like lost time. They feel like lessons paid for in experience. That mindset alone saves years of stagnation. Purposeful action also protects you from regret, because even if outcomes differ from expectations, you know you showed up and tried. Regret feeds on inaction, not effort. Time spent acting with purpose is never truly wasted, even when results take longer than expected. Each step builds skill, awareness, and resilience. Purposeful action creates a sense of ownership over your life. You stop feeling like time is happening to you and start feeling like you're shaping it. That shift, changes everything. You become proactive instead of reactive. You plan instead of drift. You invest instead of spend. Time becomes a resource you manage, not an enemy you fight. Purpose also brings patience, because when you know where you're going, you don't panic about how fast you're getting there. You trust the process because you're committed to the direction. That calm confidence is a sign of time mastery. You're no longer rushed by comparison or pressured by other people's timelines. Purpose gives you your own clock. Purposeful action also deepens focus, allowing you to enter states of flow where time seems to expand, where hours of meaningful work feel lighter than minutes of forced effort. That's because the mind works best when aligned with intention. Scattered effort drains time. Focused effort multiplies it. Purposeful action also strengthens boundaries. You become selective about commitments, conversations, and activities, because you understand that every yes is a trade and you choose wisely. That awareness alone reclaims hours each week. Over months and years, those hours compound into achievements, growth, and fulfillment. Purposeful action teaches you to start, not wait. Waiting wastes time because it assumes clarity comes before movement, when in reality, clarity comes from movement. Purpose gives you enough certainty to begin, even when details are unclear. Time rewards beginnings. The hardest part is often the first step, but purpose carries you through it. Oh, NCE in motion, momentum takes over. Momentum is time's ally. It reduces resistance and increases efficiency. Purposeful action also anchors you during difficult seasons. When progress slows or obstacles appear, purpose reminds you why you started, preventing you from quitting prematurely. Quitting wastes all the time already invested. Purpose protects that investment. Over a lifetime, those protected investments add up to mastery. People who master time aren't lucky, they're deliberate. They don't rush, they prioritize. They don't do everything, they do what matters. They don't wait for time, they meet it with intention. Purposeful action transforms ordinary moments into building blocks for extraordinary results. Each day becomes meaningful, even if it's not exciting. That consistency is powerful. Time bends in favor of those who respect it, and respect is shown through purposeful use. When you act with purpose, time feels fuller, not faster. You look back and see progress instead of blur. You feel growth instead of regret. Mastering time isn't about squeezing more into your life. It's about putting more life into what you do. Purposeful action is the key because it turns time from a passing force into a partner in your progress. Choose your purpose, act on it daily, and time will stop feeling like it's running out and start feeling like it's working for you.